How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk about stocks and focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. We also got to put in the disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice. So just make sure when you do invest, you're doing it at your own risk. And you know what time it is. It is time for the joke of the day. If you're new to this channel, we do this 5 days out of the work week. Maybe you had maybe you had a stressful day. Maybe it was the market conditions. Well, you came to watch this video, plus hear one of my corny jokes. So here it comes. Do you want to hear a construction joke? Sorry, I'm still working on it. It's corny, right? So the stock we're going to be talking about today is Ocugen, OCGN, and I must say I'm still impressed with this stock. Part of the reasons why we spoke about how important it was for it to maintain that $11 area, and it did exactly that. It did pull back to $10.81, but it rebounded fairly quickly, and even going into after hours, it was continuing to look bullish as well. But like I normally do in my videos, let's go through the agenda that we're going to be covering for today. So the first thing that we're going to be going over is actually a Twitter post from Ocugen themselves. You guys spoke about this yesterday inside the comments, but hey, we have something that we can actually go over together. The next thing that we're going to be going into, we're going to be doing a technical analysis for OCGN, looking at those support areas and as well as those resistance areas. Why is this important? We were looking forward to seeing a bullish move, and we want to know how well when it continues and when that trend actually breaks. This is key, especially if you have short-term goals for OCGN. We're also going to be taking a look at the institutional ownership, and we're also going to be taking a look at the short interest. After all of that is done, I'll be giving you guys my final thoughts and as well as another update with OCGN that I want you guys to be aware of. So let's get into it. So let's go over the Twitter post. So Dr. Anthony Fauci, NIAID Director and Chief Medical Advisor to the President, talked about how Covaxin has been found to neutralize the 617 variant of the COVID-19 virus. So when they posted this up, you can see it had 206 retweets, 96 quote tweets, and 676 likes. So just to kind of go over, so Covaxin news, according to Dr. Anthony Fauci, Covaxin can neutralize the 617 variant of COVID-19. So this is definitely great news, but we were also aware of how the trials actually turned out. It was 100% effective against severe cases of COVID-19, and its efficacy rate is at 78%. Why is this great to hear? Because this does add to more speculation. This is reflected in the stock price, and it's part of the reasons why we're seeing continued strength. So now let's get into the technical analysis. So we're going to be doing a technical analysis for OCGN, which ended up closing the day at $11.21. being down 3.86% on the day. On the low, it tested $10.81, and then on the high, testing $11.86. You can see what's going down, and after hours, we are up 3.21%, being at $11.57, which is something that is good to see. So the first thing that we want to take notice of is how well OCGN was able to hold down that $11 area of support. We talked about this being a key level in order for it to remain bullish, and that's what it did. We ended up testing $10.81, but we quickly rebounded from that. But one thing that I want to see get better are continuing levels of support, and we are seeing signs of that. So we can see right here around $11.10 we have some support, and we also want to see that the support area actually build up around $11.20. So if we could stay at that particular area even on a pullback, then we could definitely easily get to the $12 range. We got to $11.86 today. So if we have an increased level of support, especially on a pullback, we can easily get into 12. 12 is also going to be an area of resistance. So if we are able to get past $12, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing a strong move going into $12.30, and with more buying pressure, easy getting into $12.50. And this is not pending on any news or any catalyst or anything coming out. This is just sheer momentum alone. So this is one thing that that I want you guys to be aware of. It's continuing to look bullish, riding the 21-day very well, and on top of that, well above the 100 and the 200. So things are continuing to look good for OCGN. Just make sure that you guys are paying attention to these parts of the video so you can minimize your risk, especially if you're taking advantage of swing trade opportunities or day trades and so forth. So as we take a look at the recent institutional ownership for OCGN, it's definitely looking bullish, right? So we have from April the 26th to the 27th, we have 3 different institutions: CWM LLC, Tarbox Family Office, and as well as the Cutler Group. And this can even, if we go further back, aside from April the 16th where there was a closed position, and as well as April the 6th, for the most part, institutions do remain bullish when it comes to OCGN, and that's one of the things I want you guys to be aware of. We're all waiting for this catalyst to come through and see it reflected in the stock price. Let's look at the short interest. So as we take a look at the short interest information for OCGN, in regards to April the 28th, which is today, the amount of shares that were traded for short was actually 27.7 million. So that is fairly significant. If we take a look at the short shares availability, it is around 200,000, and the short borrow free rate is at 18.13%. So it's still up there, fairly high. If we take a look at the history of the short volume ratio, we can see yesterday it was at 32.40. So we already know if it's above 21%, definitely some short squeeze potential there. And I can definitely see this when we get the catalyst that we need to hear in regards to the FDA approval and as well as the emergency use authorization. Let's get into the final thoughts. So for my final thoughts for OCGN, I am still bullish on this stock and I still see a ton of room for upside. We are seeing that institutions have been showing a lot of interest. We already know that they did an offering at $10 a share. Also, you want to be aware of the fact that they ended up closing it today. So seeing what happens tomorrow and for the rest of this week will be very interesting because we need to hear some more news in regards to the FDA approval and as well as emergency use authorization. We already know that Dr. Fauci is saying how effective Covaxin actually is, but we already know that. We've already seen that it has 100% effectiveness against severe cases, and it also has a 78% efficacy rating. So it's doing a lot better than the Johnson & Johnson. And one of the reasons we need to understand this is because it's going to be key. But we also got to ask ourselves some questions here. If this does not end up going through, then this stock can definitely end up going to the downside. And it's part of the reasons why I tell you guys, minimize your risk, pay attention to the technical analysis, and know where you need to actually stop out, especially if you're doing a swing trade or you're doing a day trade. Another thing to understand is the Biden administration. Are they actually going to be ordering Covaxin? Do they really want it? We already know how effective it already is, and we already know it's pending on that FDA approval. But another thing is, I've never heard this and I've been reading some articles. You guys maybe tell me inside the comments whether I'm wrong about this or not. But they're saying in regards to supply, they already have enough. So just taking that into consideration, if he's saying that they already have enough, does that mean that, hey, since the Johnson & Johnson has some issues, would he say, well, you know what? Covaxin is really good. Let's bring that in until Johnson & Johnson figures things out. Hey, a lot of questions, things I think we really need to be asking ourselves here. And it's part of the reasons why I don't look at this play as a long-term play. Another thing to understand is a company, Ocugen. So we already know that, you know what, they're trying to work towards actually fixing blindness, curing blindness, right? But as far as what they have in the pipeline for that, there's nothing, right? They haven't got into full trials yet and so forth. So understand that. So everything is riding on Covaxin. They also have a 45% deal agreement in regards to sales, right? So no matter how much Covaxin they sell, Ocugen is only going to be getting 45% of that. So that's the agreement. So ask yourself that question. Do you think they can pull this off? And then the other question to ask yourself, are they going to be able to produce enough? Yes, they did an offering for $100 million at $10 per share, which they closed today. Is that going to be enough, or are there going to be more offerings down the road? Again, ask yourself this. I feel this is very important if you are an investor and you believe in this company. But with all that said, just make sure you're doing this one thing. Always protect your profits. I'll be talking to you guys real soon.